All right, so for the first one, polynomial, remember we can't have any negative exponents. Poly means many. So write that. Many means more than one. Thank you. Excuse me. So a monomial would not be a polynomial. This is a monomial. I'm going to just write mono. So because that's a mono, both of these only have one term. That would not be a poly. So we're going to cross those two out. Two terms is more than one. This is a binomial. Binomial. So that's more than one, so that would work. And what's wrong with this next one? What does it have that I said that you could not have? A what? A negative exponent. So that is not a poly. We're going to cross that out. And this third one is a trinomial. There's three, so that would also work. So let's go ahead and quickly go through this. So this first one, there is only one term, which means it is a monomial. The degree is your power, which is 1. For this next one, can you change this to negative 8x and then add a y squared? Go ahead and add a y squared there. So this is also only one term, which means it's a mono. But for this one, you're going to actually add the two exponents together. So you're going to add the 1 and the 2. So what would be my degree for this monomial? 3. For this next one, go ahead and write this in because I don't think it was in your chart. Fill this in. How many terms do you see here? 1, 2, 3. Good. There are 3 terms, which means it is a trinomial. And your degree is your highest power, which is 2. Good job. And the last one has 2 terms, which means it is a binomial, and your highest power is 1. That would be your degree. All right, so let's go to your note packet. Go to page 4. We're going to add polynomials together. Oh, yeah, it's underneath the purple packet. Sorry. So let's go to page 4. And we're going to add... I'm going to go ahead and pass out some color pencils so you all can use different colors. Can everybody come up and pick out at least two or 3 colors? Make sure they're different. I also have these crayons too. So 2 or 3 different colors. You might have to push that glass part in. You gotta push this part in. Okay, so we're not going to do the vertical method. We're going to focus on the horizontal method. And the main thing to keep in mind with this method is we're going to combine our like terms. So pick up a color. In order for it to be a like term, it has to have like terms they have to have the same exponent or the same variable with the same power. And I'm going to put that S in parentheses because it could be more than one variable and more than one power. We're on page 4 in our note packet. So what I want you to do for example 3, we're going to start by adding. Pick up one of your colors, and I want you to circle with one of your colors everything that has an x squared. So I'm going to use blue. And you can either lightly color it or just circle it. I'm going to color mine. So I'm going to so these are my x squareds. I want you to color those because they're like terms. And then pick up a different color for the numbers that don't have an x. So you should have 2 different colors because there's 2 different types of terms. We have x squareds and we have constants. So now let's add together. So for me, I use green and red. So I'm going to add together. Let me zoom in real close. Okay. So I'm going to add together my x squared. So that would be 3x squared plus x squared, which would be 4x squared. Because I'm only adding the numbers. Notice I'm not changing the x squared. I'm not adding the exponents. And now if you need to, pick up a calculator and add together -4 plus -9. What is -4 plus -9? -13. That would be your final answer. That's the sum. You're just combining your like terms. That's it. All right, let's do the same thing with question B. Pick up one of your colors. I want you to color all of your x squared and include the sign in front. So I'm going to stick with green. So my x squareds, notice that I'm including that minus sign in front and that plus sign. So that would be one term. Now pick up a different color. There's only one term with just an x. So I'm only going to have one colored pink. And then if you have a third color, do your constants. So now I want you to go ahead and add them together. So you're going to add together -x squared plus 2x squared. So what's -x plus 2? Or -1 plus 2? -1 plus 2 is +1x squared. Now there's only one term that I color pink. So that 4x does not have a friend. It doesn't have a like term. So I'm just going to rewrite them. And then the 2 that I color blue are my constants. So that's 8 and -9. And I'm adding. What is 8 plus -9? -1. And that would be your answer. That is all that's to addition. All right, let's go ahead and do the next one. Let's look at C and D. So for question C, let me zoom in. So I got different letters. So I want you to pick up one of your colors. Pick a color. Color all your X's the same color. So that would be my 7X and the -3X. They get one color. Then pick a different color for the Y. Those two are like terms. And then pick a different color for the z's. It doesn't matter which one. I always do alphabetical order. So I would start off by adding my x's together. Then I would start by adding my y's. And then I would finish with the z's. So go ahead and get your final answer. Write it on your paper. So for my x's, I have a positive 7. See how I have a positive 7 and a negative 3? When you add them together, you get a positive 4x. For the y's, I have a 5, a positive 5, and a positive 2. When you add them together, you get a positive 7. And for your z's, I have a negative 2 and a positive 4. And when you add those together, you get a positive 2. I always like to make sure my z looks like a z, so I put a line through it. Z's and 2's look the same. All right, go ahead and do the last one by yourself. And this one is tricky because if you're using different colors, you will have 4 different colors. Because an x cubed is not the same as an x squared. They're not friends. You cannot add them together. They stay apart. X to the third and 8x squared are not friends. They are not like terms. So he's saying by himself. He says by himself. These two can come together though. And so can these two. But in your final answer, you should have 4 terms. So my answer would be x to the third plus 8x squared because they didn't have friends. I can add together my 2 x's, so 5x and 11x, that gives me 16x. Negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2. And that would be your final answer. All right, so now let's talk about subtracting, and then we'll end there. Subtracting is very similar to addition, except before we can start adding them, we have to do a sign change. So when we subtract, we have to start by distributing. So let's do this question at the bottom of page 4 first. So at the bottom of page 4, I want you to notice that it's subtraction. So before I do anything, I'm going to begin by doing a sign change because I'm distributing these two. So what that's going to give me is 5x plus 4. And then everything in this parentheses is going to get a sign change. So instead of a positive 6x, it's a negative 6x. Instead of a positive 2, it's a negative 2. Now I'm ready to group my like terms. So after you do your sign change, these two are friends. We can add them together. And these two are friends. We can add them together. But we have to flip the sign before we start trying to add stuff together. And the only thing that gets the sign flip is what's after the subtraction sign. So your answer would be negative 1x plus 2. So at the top of page 5, it says, what is the only difference between addition and subtraction? Go ahead and fill that in right here. For subtraction, you have to distribute first. Then you combine your like terms. That's the difference. At the top of page 5, go ahead and fill that in. So for subtraction, you have to distribute first. Then you combine your like terms. So let's go ahead and finish it out. We got 4 more questions and we're finished for today. So let's go ahead and distribute. So next two, I'm going to change the sign for these two. So it becomes 6x minus 11. And then that 2x becomes a negative 2x. And the negative 19 becomes positive 19. Let's go ahead and combine your like terms. These are like terms. They get added together. These are like terms. So because the yellow, the ones I use yellow with, they both have an X to the first. That means they're friends. We can add them together. And then my numbers, they can get added together because they're friends. So that would be 4x plus 8. All right, I want you all to try to do the next one by yourself. I'm going to come around and just see how many of you all got it. You got to do a flip the sign first. Okay. So we have a 3x squared that gets added together. A 3x squared that's by itself. And then your x's get added together because they're friends. And these numbers can be added together. So what you should have had for your answer is 3x squared Now this is a positive x. That's an invisible 1 in front of that x. So that would be negative 6x and then a minus 12. Who had that for their answer? All right, good. Last two. Oh. Go ahead and distribute. Okay, so we're going to distribute that negative. So that would be z squared plus 2z minus 5. So that becomes a negative 9z and a positive 3z squared. Go ahead, use your colors. Okay, so our like terms would be, so we have our z's. We got 2z squared, so we can actually add them together this time. And then we have a positive 2z and a negative 9z. They can be added together, and you have a negative 5. So this has an invisible 1 in front. So that would be 1z squared plus 3z squared, which is 4z squared. And then 2z minus 9z is negative 7z, and then minus 5. Last one. Go ahead and do it out if you haven't already. All right, so when you distributed the negative in color, did you change all of these? Because all of these became positive. So this negative 16r squared became a positive. The negative 7r became positive, and the negative 3 becomes positive. So both of my r squares are like terms, so we can add them together, and that would be 23r squared. And then for the yellow terms that have an r, this is a positive, so that would be positive 8 plus 7, which would be a 15. And then lastly, negative 14 plus 3 is negative 11. Who had that for their final answer? All right, good job. All right, can everyone take a minute and put all of your color pencils and crayons back where you got them so that they're not on the floor? I really appreciate that. Use the rest of this time to finish working on homework 1. Homework 1 is due on Thursday.